game one of the 2026 NBA Finals
Well,
between
today
the
is
San
game
Antonio
2
Spurs and the New York Knicks. And
for
the
me.
parallels and synchronicities between this finals and the NBA Finals 27 years ago is so weird and so mind-blowing. It's very hard to believe that this stuff is not scripted. And we're going to go through all the because at some point it stops being a coincidence and people just start to question, like, are they making these things happen like this on purpose or what? Not to mention that these two teams played against each other in the NBA Cup earlier this season. For those of you that don't know, the NBA Cup is this new addition that's been happening the past few years of this mid-season tournament that takes place. And within this tournament, the Spurs end up playing against the Knicks. And I believe that the Knicks won. Now, I do want to state for the record that Wemby was playing limited minutes. He was averaging like 25 minutes. But let's get into all the weird things that you should probably know ahead of this game one. So back in 1999, the San Antonio Spurs played against.
Before we get started, man, who y'all got winning the chip, man? I done heard a few people say it's rigged. The rigged league is leading to the Spurs getting the chip. And think about it, how much energy they're gonna drain from New York by them losing. Because everybody like, if New York win right now. So just off of that alone, I know the Spurs are gonna win. You don't see nobody in San Antonio going crazy. Everybody going crazy in New York right now. Yeah, they're losing. They're losing. Trying to break y'all heart. My hearts.
The New York Knicks. But more importantly, the Spurs were hosting the Knicks just like they are this year. That is to say, the Spurs had the better record, and game one was taking place in San Antonio in 1999, just like they're doing this year as well. So that is to say, this is the first finals rematch between these two franchises in 27 years. And that number 27 is going to come up here in just a little bit later in the video. In 1999, the league was witnessing the rise of the one and only Tim Duncan, who was a slim two-way big man for the Spurs.
Like
here we are in 2026, and we have Victor Wembanyama, a slim two-way big man for the Spurs, seen as the closest Duncan-level franchise cornerstone in basketball since the Big Fundamental, which is the nickname for Tim Duncan.
Right.
So once again, here we are in the finals, centered around a young Spurs big man versus.
Wait, how tall is Tim Duncan? What he like? He like 6'10", right? Duncan. I used to rock with Tim Duncan. I used to like his demeanor. Bro, Tim Duncan demeanor is hilarious, bro. You never seen that man smile, laugh, nothing. No, he's 6'11". Dang, no Wemby, he's still a beanie bee. Yeah, but dude tall as shit.
New York. But let's get even deeper.
6'11" used to
Tim
be tall.
Duncan
Now 7'8".
and Victor Wembanyama was drafted number 1 overall. Both of them wear jersey numbers ending with the number 1.
Shout out
Duncan was in his second year when he was featured in the finals for the first time. And here Wemby is currently in his third year. But none of that even matters. You know why? Because they were both 22 years old. Tim Duncan, when he won his first championship, was 22 years old. Wemby currently is 22 years old. That's wild. Here's something else to blow your mind. The route that Tim Duncan and the Spurs took to win the championship against the Knicks was the first round they played against the Blazers, the second round they played against the Wolves, and then they played against the Lakers with Tim Duncan's at the time rival, Shaquille O'Neal, which Tim Duncan went on to beat him. Well, would you look at that? Victor Wembanyama, first round they played against the Trailblazers. The second round they played against the Wolves. The third round they played against the Thunder, which had Victor Wembanyama's nemesis, Chet Holmgren, but also someone that he felt he should have won MVP over, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This is wild. And I want to state for the record that it's very likely that Wemby could have been in the finals last year. We don't know, of course, but it's important to note that Wemby has been dealing with injuries like the lower calf strain, and he also dealt with the blood clot situation that caused him to miss a lot.
I heard Greg Popovich is like the Pope of the NBA or some shit like that. I'm like, whoa. No, don't get me wrong. I rock with Popovich. I like Popovich. Like on just some leash. I feel like he a good coach. Like, that's a coach I would want to put under. But like, bro, if I was playing basketball and stuff in a 3D sense, but on a like grand scheme, world stage, we understanding like who run the world and what's going on. It's like, yo, Greg Popovich, like, he looked like somebody that's just tied to families that's hiding information, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm Popovich. Like I'm Drago Popovich. A lot of dudes don't even know who this is, but he was the lead coach of the Spurs. You know, so he's 77 right now. But I feel like that Popovich name, it give me It give me that type of vibe. That last name is gotta do their homework. We gotta do our homework on that last name.
A lot of games. So that is to say, if this is to be believed as a script, it was probably written for Victor Wembanyama to be in the finals last year, but he was dealing with injuries. I want to state that for the record. And of course, as many of us basketball fans know, after Duncan would actually go on to win the title in 1999, that was the first of 5 championships. And many people believe that Victor Wembanyama, or the Victor Wembanyama era, has officially started with his supporting cast in a new Spurs dynasty. But let's keep going. Dylan Harper is the rookie backup shooting guard for the Spurs. His father is a man by the name of Ron Harper, who actually played against Tim Duncan in the NBA for years and also won 5 championships, just like Tim Duncan. It's also important to note that Ron Harper played with Michael Jordan, who most people revere as the greatest basketball player of all time. He played with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and he also played with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Dylan Harper has directly learned from Tim Duncan, who is still heavily involved with the Spurs organization. There's also something to be said about the Spurs' blueprint or style of drafting, and the skill sets of their players are remarkably similar. Tony Parker was the elite speed, constant rim pressure, deadly floater, and the engine of the offense. De'Aaron Fox literally fits that prototype, as he was once the fastest player in the entire NBA and is still one of the fastest today. He has a great floater game and provides constant rim pressure as
they
well.
got a system
and
and it
his
worked.
game is uniquely different from the other guards.
I mean, you can't say, look, they just ran the same system every year, and some years it worked and some years it don't. But I ain't gonna lie, all the teams leading up, like this, that's a crazy picture. The fact that Tim Duncan and Wemby played the same teams, like, come on, bro. What's the coincidence of that? What's the coincidence of that, you know? There's only so many coincidences you could have. I'm editing a thumbnail right now.
Both Tony Parker and De'Aaron Fox's greatest strength is getting to the paint before the defense can react. But this is where it gets even stranger, because the early 2000 Spurs had a star-level player that chose to come off the bench named Manu Ginobili. He was left-handed, creative, unpredictable, could score, facilitate, and could help run the offense when the starting unit was on the bench, and even sometimes with the starting unit. Well, the same applies to the San Antonio Spurs' Dylan Harper, who is also left-handed, a crafty scorer, advanced playmaker, and can play on and off the ball just like Manu Ginobili. And what makes it even more interesting is that it's almost as if they needed Dylan Harper to play the left-handed role, because he isn't even a natural left-hander. He shoots left-handed simply because he wanted to be quote-unquote different, and it looks smoother.
How come you're lefty?
I want to be different.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know.
Your dad said one day that you just decided to be a lefty. True or false?
That's probably true. I don't remember how it happened. I dunk with my right hand. I do everything righty. I hit a golf ball with my right hand, but I shoot left.
Can you name all the lefties on the Spurs?
Me, David Jones, Fox. There's more.
There's one that I have in mind.
Me, David Jones, Fox. We count Mason Plumlee? Mace.
He's a lefty.
He's a lefty, right? It depends on the day.
What do you like about being lefty? Any advantages?
A lot smoother. I feel like when you go back watching the game, I feel like I look a lot smoother out there.
Something else very interesting is that Wemby was drafted number 1, Harper was drafted number 2, Fox was drafted number 4, and Castle was drafted number 5. And those are literally the jersey numbers that they wear as well. Not to mention that both Ginobili and Dylan Harper have jersey numbers that start with number 2, just like Tim Duncan and Victor Wembanyama have jersey numbers that end with the number 1. Again, not a perfect match, but it's something that fans definitely will notice. But it gets even more interesting, because in 1999, a man named Rick Brunson was on the Knicks roster when they played against the Spurs in the finals. Well, here we are in 2026, and there's a man by the name of Jalen Brunson, who is currently the Knicks superstar and finals leader. And you would be correct. Rick Brunson happens to be Jalen Brunson's father, as they became the first father-son duo in NBA history to each reach the finals with the same franchise. Not to mention that Rick is now a Knicks assistant coach. Another interesting fact is that Rick Brunson started off his career as a reserve point guard and briefly played in the finals as a role player against the Spurs before going on to lose to the Spurs in those same finals. Well, Jalen Brunson started off his career playing behind Luka Doncic and being heavily underestimated before becoming a star in his own right. I mean, it's almost like a movie script. The father was on the last Knicks finals team. The son leads the Knicks back to the finals 27 years later. Rick Brunson literally watched him dunk and start a dynasty in 1999. 27 years later, Rick now stands on the Knicks bench while his son tries to stop Victor Wembanyama from starting the next one. To make it even more strange, Jalen Brunson was literally there as a toddler during the 1999
Oh,
finals
wow.
run, but he didn't just attend the games, he was also in the locker room. So in 1999, New York was trying to win his first title
So
since
he just back.
1973.
He just came back 30 years later. Sheesh. Sheesh. Kid was in the locker room. Then he gonna go back 30 years later? They just usurping the energy out of that whole bloodline. Sheesh. Gosh.
Here we are in 2026, and New York is still trying to win its first title since 1973. And then, of course, you have the 27 Club, right? Which is this conspiracy or this pattern over the years that people have noticed of celebrities that have passed away at the young age of 27. From Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Robert Johnson, and the list goes on. And for years, people have been trying to figure out if there's something special about this 27 number. Because in the occult, as we know, 27 is very important when it comes to spiritual completion and ending a cycle. So being that I've noticed that these teams are playing each other for the first time in a while in the finals, is it a coincidence that the
I want to say shout out to Didi Got a Podcast. You know what I'm saying? Y'all got to go tap in with his page, bro. That was an interesting take, you know, because we know how these things work in these leagues. Everything is staged, you know, and sports entertainment, they tell you it's entertainment, you know, so they tell you sports games are entertainment. NBA. So the game is 5:30 today. National Basketball Association, right? Just look up on Wikipedia. It's a professional basketball league. So I say it's a professional basketball league, but what do professionals do? They know how to act. Professionals in their craft, they know how to perform their task, right? So even though they know how to perform their task well, they're still under contract. The NBA began as Basketball Association of America, 46. And you know all these folks did was find some people that was doing ancient things, or find some text, or they just re-rock everything from the inventory. Bill Russell defending Wilt Chamberlain. They probably was trash back then. But look. So you got the evolution of the NBA and stuff like that. Wow, oh wow, look at this Lakers and Spurs dynasties. Yeah, man, all of these things be tied occultly to the realm too, because entertainers, they gotta submit their albums and their tapes through distribution or through major record labels. NBA, their jerseys, the teams they play, the nicknames, all of these things are choreographed and sanctioned through the NBA. So if you got popes of the NBA, like, is there an NBA Vatican? Like, what's going on? That's it though, man. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. You can watch the full video on Didi Got a Podcast page.